Mr. Bletsas, Mr. Michail Bletsas is a research scientist and the director of computing at MIT's Media Lab. And we will try together to explore somehow the computing trends. Mr. Bletsas, welcome and thank you for coming to this interview.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know that you don't like the word revolution in computer science and machine learning, as these terms and technologies have been evolving for many years now. When do you think we can safely say that we have a revolution, and why don't we have a revolution so far? What is missing?
Well, you can approach it from a variety of perspectives, but when it comes to machine learning, for example, machine learning was a purely evolutionary process. The rise of machine learning, the algorithms that we use that enable machine learning today were, for the most part, known since the mid-80s. So we didn't really find anything new. What happened was that these algorithms suddenly, or not so suddenly, gradually became practical. So with the advancements in microelectronics, we had enough computing capacity, and more importantly, we had the necessary data that feed those algorithms. Machine learning is very data intensive. It consumes, it chews on data. It relies on huge quantities of data, which also became very gradually available. So that's why I don't like the word revolution. We didn't have any important development, scientific development when it comes to computer science. Computer science has this very interesting property that many of the ideas, the fundamental ideas, have been the same for a very long time. There are really not so many new ideas in computer science, but we evolve, we move forward by combining elements of existing things in different and new, interesting ways that really produce something new. So it creates revolutions in its applications, of course. And we saw that with machine learning. Machine learning is an interesting also case because it evolves a lot of emotions to humans. For most people, when they hear the term artificial intelligence, they think that it is something like their own intelligence, which actually, when it comes to machine learning, it could be more farther away from truth. The current artificial intelligence is very artificial and has nothing to do with our intelligence. And actually, the other reason that I don't like the revolution is that the term revolution, especially within the context of today's machine learning and AI applications, is that since the beginning of the field in 1956 of artificial intelligence, generalized artificial intelligence that looks a lot like ours, has always been 20 years away. Well, if you ask the top of the line practitioners of artificial intelligence today, they're still going to tell you that generalized artificial intelligence is still 20 years away. So no revolution there.
I understand now why you don't like this term, but computing trends are still partially unknown fields, and we are still unaware of how to fully interpret their skills. Are we close to understand how we can take advantage of these technologies, and especially in Greece?
Well, in Greece, in general, our application of information technology and computing hasn't been at the forefront of our interest as a society. The pandemic has accelerated a lot of activity in that area and showed us the potential. And that's actually in the general scheme of things, that has a lot of positive angles. There is a lot of productivity, of hidden productivity in society that could be unleashed if we properly take advantage of information and communication technologies. On the other hand, in a more general, when we see it from a more general perspective, computing has been the base of all the components of what people call today the fourth industrial revolution, whether that's genetics, biotech, 3D printing, robotics, very high speed, low latency communications, aka 5G. All of that has at its basis computing and the advancements in computing. So it's very important to see where what are the paths that we will have to follow in order to continue evolve in that space. And that's what I will try to address in my talk.
In what point can we use machine learning, and how precise can that be in decision making, something that is very important during pandemics or various crises?
It's very important to use it everywhere that there is a large volume of data. The properties that we are looking into that data have multiple dimensions. Humans are not very good in visualizing relations that span multiple dimensions. We live in a three-dimensional world, which has also a fourth dimension time. Anything beyond that is not very clear to us because we can't visualize it. Machine learning, on the other hand, is very good at that. It doesn't care about how many dimensions the data are and is able to find relations and correlations between data that are completely we can't see them. They are not visible to us. They are not visible to the human mind. So on the other hand, that's the important thing. It looks for correlations. And as we learned very early on in our graduate school careers, correlation doesn't imply causation always. And machine learning doesn't even understand how to deal with causation at this point in time. So we should always have humans in the loop when there is decisions to be made. Humans have to review or be aware of those decisions that algorithms are making. And we still have a pretty big advantage there, because when machine learning processes, decision-making processes work, they usually work quite well. And when they fail spectacularly. And it's pretty easy for a human to figure out how they failed.
And something to close our interview, what do you think the biggest challenge of our times is?
I think the biggest challenge of our times is energy and climate change. Those things, as you know, are very tightly connected to each other. We haven't, as a global society, agreed yet. We haven't come at a common level. And that's very difficult because a lot of people have different developmental levels. A very large percentage of the planet's population lives in poverty. Much smaller percentage than in the older days, but still a significant amount of significant percentage of the total population. In order to raise those people out of poverty, we need a lot of energy. And carbon neutral might not be enough. We might have to be carbon negative soon enough. And that ties very well with my talk, because a lot of the developments and the trends in computing are driven by more efficiently using energy in computing. Even in computing, even in microelectronics that are considered to be very efficient, energy is what dictates at the end where we are going.
Mr. Bletsas, thank you very much for this interview and your time. Have a great day.
You too. You're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.